Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Redirection with Terri-Karelle Season 3. I don't know about you, but I've been excited. I continue to be excited because of the amazing guests that I get to speak with. And most of the time, when you give me your feedback, you're just like, these are people who we don't necessarily know of. We don't see them on platforms, but they have amazing and inspirational stories. Now, if this is the very first time you're stumbling upon the podcast, I'm your host, Terri-Karelle, and this podcast is brought to you by MasterCard in association with Heineken 00 along with Toyota Jamaica. Now, this podcast would not be possible, especially season 3, without the support of my great partners. And not only did they allow me to have this podcast, but every single guest who comes on this set walks away with the most beautiful swag bag. Like last year I had 2 swag bags, now they get 3 swag bags and it's like super heavy. So MasterCard, thank you for always reminding us that even when life gets rough, we always celebrate those priceless moments. There are those moments that make us kind of sit back and go, yeah, that was nice. Heineken 00 saying, yeah, the rejection, them, I got coming up, but you know what? We're going to do it anyway. And Toyota Jamaica, always changing Jamaica one hybrid at a time, wanting to leave positive footprints wherever you go. I'm a proud Toyota ambassador. And if you're in the market looking for a hybrid, come on, you know where to go. Make it Toyota Jamaica. Spaces. You come in, you make the place nice, warm, inviting. Every time a guest comes in, they say they feel as if they're entering my living room. And concepts. The quality control, the production thing, the excellence, the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 camera, the lighting, the sound, the everything. You know, I love you guys and I love working with you all the time. In fact, whenever the guests come on set, they always say that the crew is absolutely attentive and absolutely sweet, and there is no one I would rather work with than Commercial Concepts. MDS, Beauty Brands by MDS. I know that Tree Hut is the premium skin and body care line that all of our guests are getting in their swag bag, and it's going to be a fight when they get home. Thank you for supporting what this podcast is all about. Brescia, purposeful and prepared is really what all my guests continue to embody every time they come on this set. Goshore Couriers, what can I tell you? Efficient, professional, great customer service for all the packages that I want to order and I continue to order. You guys always seem to get it to me in less than a week, but don't pressure them. Please make sure that you order your packages in a timely and efficient manner. And FHC Credit Union, in all of the discussions we're having, thank you for reminding us that it is important for us to have a strong financial footing, and it is you who helps us to create this very solid path that secures our future. So with that being said, thank you to our partners. Thank you for all of the tokens that you drop in my swag bags. And of course, if you are interested in catching up on maybe podcast episodes that you haven't watched already, you can always find us here on YouTube, or you can listen across your preferred podcast platforms. And you can also visit redirectionpodcast.com. If you're sharing on social media, please go ahead, use a hashtag TK Redirection. And you know, I have to give my shout out to the one and only Tony Aiken, always holding it down for the deaf community and sharing all the nuggets, all the gems, all the expressions. And even as Tony is over there signing, I try my best not to get distracted by how amazing Tony is. Thank you so very much for your service. So who is coming next to the Redirection seat? This is someone I've known for a long time. We get along, we always have these conversations, but I'm like, you have an amazing redirection story. Come from humble beginnings, decided that he was going to be determined to make it out, that education would be the way, came upon a roadblock, but you know what? That detour has developed in him into the beautiful husband, man, manager, father who he is today. Don't know who I'm talking about yet? I guess you're going to just have to wait and see. Redirection with Terri-Karelle starts now. Kevin Miller. Well, first of all, you know, it sounds very weird me saying Kevin Miller. Kev, you look good.
Thank you.
You look sharp.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Redirection
I've been
seat.
preparing. Thank you. It's a privilege for me to be here. and something that I was looking forward to for a while. I was
Really?
hoping that I would have gotten a call one day.
You were hoping. All
Yes.
right. Well, I know last year you had the opportunity to support your wife, LaShandla,
Right.
who was here in the redirection seat. But
Yes.
then the more I got to know, just you guys as individuals and as a couple, I realized, but you have a very interesting story. So I said, well, I spoke to wifey last year. Why not speak to hubby this year? So thank you so very much for being here. I really
Thank you for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Now, you are one of those persons who I consider to be the jack of all trades, the master of all. So I'm like,
Right.
okay, I have a certain amount of time and I'm going to try to like get as many questions in with Kevin as possible. Right now, you sit as the ADA at the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority.
Right.
And I'm gonna go for it. And ADA really
ADARO.
is a aerodrome air traffic services reporting office manager.
Yes.
How will you do, Kevin? How will you do? Because I know right now
Right.
everybody's saying, what that mean?
Right. So, as you rightly said, Terry, the position is Aerodrome, Air Traffic Services Reporting Office. That's where I work, and I'm the manager for the office. And pretty much what we do is we process aeronautical information data that pilots use for the safe and efficient operation of their flight. So we do flight planning operations for pilots. We issue pre-flight information bulletins. We coordinate and send emergency messages. So, aircraft that are in distress, we are part of the coordination, alerting other neighboring airspaces and so forth about, if we have a situation.
Yes.
But so that's pretty much what we do with other things.
No,
of
and-
course, it's a highly technical position. I must add,
imagine.
right? There's a lot of map reading and a lot of analyzing,
Logistics.
analysis and so forth, right? You have to be timely. Of course, in aviation, time is money. We always hear that
Yes.
saying. It is no truer place to say that than in aviation.
Well, I think what is cool is whenever we hear about aviation and airports, you always think about the pilots.
Right.
Everyone always talks about the captain and the first officer, and then there's always the flight attendants and how
Yes.
beautiful they are. But we understand air traffic control. We understand the tower. We understand that there are people working assiduously in the background to ensure that we're safe and we're secure. Before I get into my next question, so when we have flight delays, is your office we must
Not really, because all right. So let me kind of make a little bit of differentiation because
Yes.
we're really unsung heroes. Nobody really knows about us.
Yes.
Okay, so we're even more in the background than air traffic control.
Really?
So our position supports air traffic control.
Got you.
So we're the information center, the information hub, where all the data comes in. We process all that into information. We send them back out in static information, like
Yes.
things that we call like AIP. Sorry, I'm just getting brief.
AIP, just remember,
so
so we
aeronautical
have
information publication.
just remember we
and
have
so forth.
sign language here, so we have to
Yes.
make sure that these terminologies are things that
Yes.
even Tony can understand.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So we have static documents that contains information about civil aviation in Jamaica.
Wow.
And my office have to prepare that. That's another unit from mine. We do the flight planning. So we'll get the data, we'll put it together in a format that air traffic control can use it for the safe and efficient movement of the aircraft.
Absolutely.
So we are even further in the background than air traffic control. So my office is not even in the tower.
Wow.
We're a little
You're
bit
like way
outside,
behind the scenes.
Yes.
Well, of course, I'm going to ask you how we got here because the question I always ask my guests is, did you see yourself here? Is
No.
this what you had worked toward? Talk to me about little Kevin, what his dreams were like, and just explain to me how your journey molded you into where you are now.
Right. Beautiful question. So from a younger age, I wanted to be a pilot.
Look at that.
Yes.
You're not too far.
Not too far. And that love and for flying and wanting to be a pilot actually prepared me for where I am today.
Nice.
So, for example, for me, I've been reading flying instrument books and playing flight simulators and so forth from I was, being introduced to computers back then.
Yes.
12, 11, 10 years old. And I was always fascinated by flying.
Why?
I don't know because from back in primary school, and people were talking about, oh, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer. Maybe it was there it started, because I never wanted to be a lawyer. Never, I was thinking about doctor,
Yes.
being a doctor.
I
at
think
one
everybody
point,
was at some point.
right?
Mhm.
And weirdly, mostly a pathologist, really. But I don't know why I chose that either. But as 11, 12, I started wanting to be a pilot. So I started reading a lot about flying and what it takes to become a pilot. No, I didn't have the resources. So that was the biggest hindrance.
Yes.
And, in Jamaica, we don't have a lot of options, especially back then. So people were suggesting that you join the army and then you could, get flying from there and so forth.
Right. That could have been a great channel, yes.
Right. And I think I was fit enough and kind of up and down enough that I could have probably handled the training of becoming a soldier or working in the JDF. So that was where it started. My grandma used to she lives in the United States, so she used to be one of the major financier of our education here.
Yes.
And but the amount of money that it would take to do piloting would have just been so much.
And it's
So
still expensive even
it's still
now.
expensive. Of course, when you look at jet fuel to buy and to aircraft maintenance and all of that
You
stuff,
understand
you can
it.
understand where the expense comes from. So after a while, I realized that this is a far-fetched dream, but I was still prepared to work and try to do all that, send myself to school and stuff.
But then tell me about Kev growing up, because then you see you spoke about your grandma, and I always, whenever people bring up grandmas, I'm like, yeah, we know what it was like for many of us. Grandmas filled many gaps for
Right.
us. Talk to me, even before you get to 10, 12, 13, you have this dream of becoming a pilot. How are you at home? Where did you grow up? Where you born? Where you come from?
So I was born in a very small community in Trelawny called Martha Bray.
Yeah.
So that's where my early years spent. I left Martha Bray at 18 when I got a job at Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority, but kind of go back there. So I grew in a single parent home. My father was our single parent.
Really?
Right.
That's very different. We're accustomed to
Yes.
persons always speaking about mummies being their single parent.
And so I grew with one brother, one sister. We're same mother, same father.
Yes.
So it was three of us who actually grew up. Didn't meet my mother until I was about 12. But one thing for sure, my father always spoke highly of my mother. So he always said that, when you know her, you must love her and, cherish her. At the end of the day, she's your mother. Sometimes you have those sort of breakup relationships, and
Yes.
then, all sort of negativity starts being spewed about the other parent. No, I didn't experience that at all.
That's beautiful.
Right.
And do you think that helped you in terms of when you did meet her?
Absolutely, because there was no ill will or any hard feelings towards this person. So you could readily accept her as a mother.
Yes.
And we still have a relationship today. Mommy, big up yourself.
Oh, nice.
So we still have a relationship today, and very good relationship as well.
And why? So I mean, it's always strange because whenever it comes to parenting and single parenting households, it's always the mom. So how is it that you ended up being with your dad as opposed to mom?
It's a story that I've never really tried to get into or understand.
Yeah.
But while growing, it's not because of how my father spoke about my mother. It was almost like he never even really miss having a mother around. So there was always that can I call it Bluetooth connection?
Yes.
Maybe I don't know, but yeah, there was always this subtle connection that still existed between. So even when I knew my mother, my brother and myself, we would leave Trelawny to journey to St. Elizabeth from time to time, even after school hours, just to go and visit my mother. And we were like young, like 14. We
Yeah.
were paying our own way. My brother is now living in Tampa, but we were jumping on buses, connecting through Montego Bay, connecting through Savlamar, and on all our way going on to Santa Cruz.
So there was no resentment. There's no hatred. There's actually this desire to get to know mommy.
Absolutely.
And to love her.
Yes.
That's fantastic. So then tell me about just the lessons that you learned that basically helped to mold you and shape you as you are journeying through primary education, secondary education.
My father kept us grounded. My father is is a Rasta, real Jenna. But he kept us grounded. We had to be disciplined. We had to go to school. He didn't have it. We didn't have it growing up. We didn't grow with all that fluff and flair, and no, it was really just making ends meet. And that we call it humble beginning.
Yeah.
For me, I want to say poor. I grew up poor, and that way of growing, it was instilled in us that education is what will get you out of your situation. So even there's this famous agricultural show, Hague Agricultural Show. My friends had to pass my house to go to Hague Agricultural Show. Now when them a pass, we can't make them know we live. Cause you talk about
You never want them know.
Yeah, no, you don't want them know. Say what? Really, that house you live in? No. So we used to hide and all of that stuff. When people were passing, and you just don't want nobody knows how they say you live. I mean, we talk about one pair of shoes everywhere you go, and the one pair of shoes you wear. But that sort of lifestyle, it maybe is what prepared me and helped me become who I am. So even today, I'm not a flashy person. I'm quite humble, me quite, behind the scenes and will do. As I say, I do a lot of things, but I tend to, be in the shadows.
Yes.
And I prefer it that way. So that sort of disciplinarian environment or discipline environment that I grew up in was the one that really prepared
Laid the
me for
foundation.
life.
And I think,
Right.
I think even just listening to you, it's always easy for people to believe because we know statistics are there, and we know that generally there is this narrative and this view that once people grow in a certain neighborhood or community, or they lack, things like being disciplined, being excellent, persevering, all of these amazing traits, people automatically expect that you just don't have it. And I think the more we hear stories like yours is the more we realize that there is a hunger for excellence usually when you speak to people who came from some of the most impoverished circumstances.
I mean, how I grew, I didn't want to come and live like that as an adult. So I had to make a choice. I was not one to get all the books while I was going to school. Sometimes I have to photocopy things out of people book to have the material that I could study. I did literature in CXC. I got a 2 in literature, and I never owned a literature book really from grade 9 onwards. Really just couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
But where there's a will, there's a way.
Amen.
And at the end of the day, I know that, as my father always said, is education going to take us out of this situation? And, even though I tell my bigger son that, listen, education is key.
Don't play
get
around.
distracted. Don't play around with it.
And I've heard you. I've heard when you speak to him and you're just like, listen, even though we've been able to create a better lifestyle for you, and you certainly are not experiencing anything near what I experienced, the idea is that you still have to have this idea of you have to work and you have to earn it. And there is no spirit of entitlement. And I want to ask you that, even as a parent, since you went there, how important is it? I saw a quote that said, hard times create strong people create good times create weak people, weak people create hard times. And there is this thing that's going on right now. I don't even know what to call it, where those of us who experienced hardship, we know what it is like to do it out food, do it out water, current, all kind of thing, bill collector, run you down. But then we vow that we don't want our children and the next generations to suffer the way we did. And instead, we overcompensate. We give them everything. And now they basically are accustomed to just receiving. How important is it for you to balance that
It is
between
very important
your
because
children?
We the last thing we'd want children to. It's funny you mentioned that quote because there's also another quote that I love. My wife and myself, we live by that quote that says, tough times never last, but tough people do. How do you, while giving your child a better life, ensure that when tough times come,
They're resilient.
they are resilient? So it is a balance. We have taken the approach to, along with giving and providing, it comes with lecture. And we point to other examples around us, right? When I was going to school, I used to travel in the back of taxis.
Yeah.
I don't want my child to be driving in the back of a taxi to go to school. So you tend to drop them off and you pick them up. But then you also say that, listen, this is not automatic. This is not how life runs is for everybody. So you have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to learn to that if something happens, that you can I use the term redirect? You have to you have to do something to be able to shift and reposition.
Correct.
That when obstacles come, these hurdles teach you to jump.
Absolutely. And that you might be experiencing comfort and convenience, but don't expect to always have this cushion everywhere you go in life.
I used to go to school. I attended William Knibb Memorial High in Trelawny, Usain Bolt.
Wait, everybody who coming on the show this season apparently went to big up William Knibb.
Yes, man. William Knibb doing some great things down there. Some of my earliest mentorship happened there. People like Henry Small, who taught me physics and chemistry. Shana Van D'Souza, Sir D, talking about Mrs. Eunice. There are some people there who are just always in your corner. And there are times when we go to school without food. Not because you wanted to, but you just couldn't afford it. But because I walk to school and walk back home, sometimes I leave school and say I go home for lunch. Sometimes lunch was nothing.
Yes.
You just well rest and then you go back at school.
Just go back.
Yeah. Because, you had a purpose.
Yes.
And whatever it took to fulfill that purpose,
we're going
to achieve and we're going to reach there.
So you have this spirit of perseverance, even with the lack, even with the lack of resources. You are determined that you are going to be someone.
Yes.
And you're going to put yourself in a better situation.
Yes.
So you're interested in the piloting, but then you say, boy, Terry, the finances, and even though grandma was the one who helped us through school, clearly there are levels to this thing.
Yes.
So how do you run up in buck up in stumble upon aviation or a different part of it?
So as I was saying, that my earlier reading prepared me for aviation.
Yes.
After leaving William Knibb, so I did physics. That's because of my wanting to fly. I did certain subjects like geography, physics.
Makes sense.
Right. So those two particular subjects. And then I graduated 7 CXCs, got a 1 in physics, and got a grade 3 in geography, and I cried. Because that was the only grade 3 I got. I got 3 1s and 3 2s, right? But I was not the brightest either. I just worked hard. And I left there and I went to Montego Bay Community College, where I did 1 year of unit of CAPE.
Yes.
Unit 1 of CAPE. Again, I did geography there and I did physics there.
Yes.
Because again, whatever I did was supposed to prepare me for
your
flying.
future.
Right. When Unit 2 came around, I didn't even know at the time that I was supposed to re-register. So end up never go school for Unit 2. So I have that. But so I started working at Trelawny Cooperative Credit Union in 2005, January.
Yes.
And I did that for about 9 months. Somewhere along that chain of work, my sister, our older sister by my mother's side, actually sent me a message, an email at the time, saying that this place is taking on for air traffic controllers, because she knew I wanted to fly.
She knew what was in your heart.
Right.
Yes.
And I didn't know anything about air traffic control at the time, but I said, okay, I'm going to try it. I will do it because it seemed like a natural progression.
You're getting closer.
Closer to the thing. Yeah, goal right there, so, so it's so reach. And, I procrastinated, and on the last day, I actually sent in the application because they wanted A-levels and CXC at the time. But I only had 1 unit of CAPE.
Yes.
So in myself, I said, boy, I'm going to qualify. But I say, what, by faith, I go send it in.
All right.
Sent it in. And so this is one of my biggest pivots.
Okay.
So I actually sent it in. Got a call that I needed to come to an interview. But when they wanted me to interview, I was going to be in Barbados at the time.
Yes. So
I said to the lady on the phone, Althea, big up yourself. I said to Althea at the time that I'm not going to be in Jamaica. So I'm unable to attend the interview. So she said, okay, she'll call me back. She called me back and said, okay, when are you coming back? I said, I'm coming back on Monday.
Yes.
She said, okay, which day after Monday you can come? So I said, I get to choose on my own interview day. So,
your boss.
Yeah, my boss. So I said, all right, I can come Tuesday. And she said, okay, great. They're going to set me down for Tuesday. Was in Barbados. And while I was in Barbados, I was at church this Sunday. And a lady walked up to me. They did altar call and all of that. So I was at the altar, and a lady walked up to me and put her arms around me. And I was like, I never know who the lady was. Her name is Margaret. Still remember her name. And Margaret, started saying some things that you're supposed to go home and do a test or exam or something of the sort, an
Yes, what
interview
she
or
talk
something.
about?
No, I remember
When
about
she
the
said interview.
but she was talking about like a test or exam or something to pass. So I was like, yeah, I'm so. She said, listen, the Lord said that He's opening up a door for you,
You're kidding.
and that work is yours. So at the end of the day, and what God opens for you, nobody can shut, and so forth. That was significant because when I came back, I did the interview, and in air traffic control and flying, also, there's a medical requirement. So I was supposed to also do a medical and all of that. Did the medical, everything. Started the training.
Yes.
We have our own training institute. So we started the training there. 1 week into the training, HR called me and said, okay, you actually failed the medical. I'm like, what?
And your
You mean
whole
fail?
butter fit
Me
a
young,
good,
me
you
fit,
bring- you're healthy.
me failed medical.
happened?
What happened? And that the medical came back that I was actually colorblind.
Colorblind.
So they actually labeled it red-green deficiency. That means I'm supposed to having problems to decipher between red and green.
Hold on. So, Kev, did you know you were colorblind? I mean, you may not have known the term growing up,
Yeah.
RG deficiency, but did you always know that something was off?
Yes, I knew. I knew that I had some amount of challenge, but I didn't even know at the time that it was a thing really. So there were times that my brother and my sister, we might while growing up, we said, "Look at the person in the green shirt," and I'm like, "Huh? Green? Well,
You know, see no green?
that's not green shirt." And I say, "Oh, some real no know color then." Even though my wife and myself, we have that. So she said, "Look for the." I say, "Listen." Or for example, I might say to her that the red thing, and she said, "But me not see no red." Me say, "Well, me like the colorblind, so me can't tell you anything."
It's
Really.
true.
Yeah.
It's true. So you find out in that moment.
So we found out in that moment. The significant part of that moment was that I actually got a letter so I got a 1-year contract. After speaking to the HR, I got a 1-year contract. That they're gonna put me somewhere else because I could no longer work as an air traffic controller. So I had to stop the training right there after 1 week.
How did you feel, considering you would have felt excited? You know, you're getting closer to your goal, you're doing your training, you got through the interview, and to be hit like that, like in terms of even your self-esteem. I know you as a very confident person, but even in that moment, how did you manage that boof, as we say?
It was disappointing. I was very disappointed. And I'll tell you why. Because I think that I had the competence.
Yeah.
I had the technical competence because as I say, it's a highly technical job. And I like numbers, I like the analysis, I like to evaluate stuff, all of
Yes.
that. And not getting that opportunity to work in this sort of environment was earth-shattering. But there was also another thing. If you can't pass the medical, which is the same type of medical or similar type of medical to become a pilot, then the pilot dream just went too.
So you connected the dots.
You connected the dots. So for example, when aircraft land at night, the runways have to be lit. So as a pilot, if you can't pass a color test, how do you know what color is on the runway?
Correct.
How do you know when you're approaching the red lights? How do you know that when you're on a taxiway, you're actually on a taxiway?
So they put you elsewhere.
So for me, it is not that chronic though,
Yeah.
because but there, as I said, there's some amount of challenge, and I admit that. So there went the pilot dream. So I said, sure. Well, if you can pass a medical for the air traffic control, then piloting not
Correct.
really
It's
work.
out of the door.
It's now through the door. And so right in that moment I had to make a decision. I had to determine, what do I do next? Because here I am, I left Trelawny, come to Kingston to work. And in a field that I think I'm more than competent,
Yes.
more than capable to do, but yet it's just something in my estimation that I would probably consider minor at the time, that here comes this little one annoying thing. There's a small trash blind eye. Some of the most insignificant stuff just have the biggest impact.
Yes.
And so I decided to run out the 1-year contract. But then, I remember what the lady in Barbados said. I remember what Margaret said. God is putting you here.
And once he
Nobody
opens this
can lock the door
door,
there. So I got that letter 18 years ago.
18
No,
years.
19 years ago.
Which means you are still very
I'm
much.
still there.
Talk to me. I mean, it's always interesting. You know, a lot of the times people say you always have to have passion to do a job. And it's good. I mean, once you love your job, naturally, you're less likely to give up. You're less likely to deal with frustrations in a particular way. But I've always said that it is curiosity. It is really just having enough curiosity to say, well, what do I have to lose?
True.
To try out something.
Because because of my confidence and my optimism in life,
Yes.
I can grow wherever I planted. I'm one of those persons who can be in any situation and I can pivot.
Yes.
You know, some people look good in a suit, but them don't look good in a jeans. But probably can look good in a both of them. But that's kind
Look
of
at Lash. Lash is on the set laughing.
but it's because I'm one of those persons. I can pivot. I learn very quickly and I adapt.
You adapt
to technical information as well as normal type information. So when I was told that I would have been working somewhere else, at the time I was happy to have a job.
Yes.
So that
Just
was
gratitude.
The first, just gratitude. Maybe just glad to say them never pushed me through the door. And I say, okay, you know, I'm now in aeronautical information management. At the time, it wasn't even a real type of department per se. I mean, we have come a long way. We have restructured. We have, we have cemented our
Yes.
space in aviation. And because of where aviation is going now, it is largely data driven. So we have to
There's a
be
bigger
processing.
role.
There's a bigger role for information. As a matter of fact, it's almost like the center of aviation now because everybody needs information.
Yes.
The pilots need information. The air traffic controllers need information. The users of aeronautical material needs information, and we have to ensure that those information are accurate.
It's always interesting how I think certain characteristics and traits and competencies are deposited in us. And sometimes we think we know where the best places are for us.
Right.
To be able to display this talent.
Right.
And we sometimes don't realize that there are roles and platforms and responsibilities where we are best suited for. Sometimes it's ignorance, it's a lack of exposure, and the fact that you are taking that analytical skill and you have all of these traits that you thought would have been best for piloting.
Right.
Is now in a space where you're just like, well, this feels like home.
Absolutely. And I'm so comfortable where I'm at. I get a chance to create a lot of procedures.
Yes.
In my role now. When I got a Governor General's Award in 2012.
Lovely.
And when I was recommended,
And this would have been for academic,
excellence
and volunteer excellence.
Right. Because I used to, part of the story was that I used to teach evening class for free. So I taught my brother and three of his friends physics evening class for free. And, I can credit myself with their success for that.
Yes.
Right. So from then, I knew that there's some amount of leadership potential and qualities that I may have. So fast forwarding down to 2017, 2018, when the department was being established and all of that, at this point, I still didn't have a degree. When I met my wife in 2007.
How did you meet her, by the way? Hi, Lash. Hi, Lash. How did you guys meet?
We actually met in Go Jamaica chat room.
So this whole online dating thing where everybody are talking about all of a sudden, yeah. So this you've been and done that.
Been there.
What was it about her?
So
what was it about?
It was her name, because her name displayed there was Rika, R-I-C-A. Now I had a cousin who had just migrated with that same name. So it was a name that propelled me to just click on it just to see if it was her.
Rika? How you doing, Rika? And that is how she catch you.
And right. And we started striking up a conversation. She told me that she have 5 kids and she work as a domestic helper and all of that. But again, because of who I am, I always encourage people. So I say, it's not the end of the world, You can still have a future.
And you didn't know that she was lying to you at the
time? I never even know that she was lying, really. But I say, if I can help you. I like opening doors, Terri. I love to open doors.
That's beautiful.
Right. So I did all that,
But you don't have a degree.
But I didn't have a degree. So when the position started opening up, So I started school, stopping. So I attended UCC, started in 2007, stopped by 2008, decided 2011 I'm going back, stopped in 2012, and decided, I'm done with school.
Was it anything in particular that was just interrupting and hindering your
No, it was just
process?
me. Because you see, for me, learning doesn't only take place in a four walls. And the greatest lessons that you learn outside. Make sense?
Yeah.
So I had a problem with how schooling system was set up, and decided that I'm not think me I gotta do this. But then I did an interview for the lowest level in ADARO, and I was told that while I possess the technical competence,
Got to get that paper.
right?
Yup.
And again, because I'm my whole background with flying, with reading the flying material and all of that,
experience and
I had
everything.
experience. When I was doing the first interview to come into air traffic control, when I was on my interview, people were looking at each other like, "Where this man know these things from?"
But you needed a degree
But I needed,
in order to go a level up.
well, I needed at least an associate degree. So them said that the only way that I can be considered for the position is if I show them that I'm enrolled in school, I'm committed to showing them all my grades every month, all of that stuff, then that's the only way I could be eligible for the position.
So it took you 13 years.
So it took me 13 years.
13 years to complete that degree.
Yes. Started back in 2017. Juan Beol, as fate would have it, I could start back from where I left off in 2012. So I got my 30 credits to restart. Because if I tried to start back in September of that year, I would have been timed out. So you're talking about 10 more programs, 30 different credits, more money, more time.
But then what you do afterwards, I think, is what really shocked me, because it might have taken you 13 years, because as you're saying, and people learn differently, right? We understand that the educational system is quite rigid. It's not very flexible. They're different kind of learners. They're not really taken into consideration. So it takes you 13 years, which so many things happen within that 13 years.
Absolutely. 13 years. In that 13 years, we got married. My first child was born. My second child was born in 2019. I completed in 2020. Right? So there was a lot of things happening. I mean, I've gone through episodes that for many people would have been depressing.
Yes.
But because again of my strong inner belief, and I don't ever think I was ever depressed, or if I was ever depressed, I don't even know it was depression.
Yeah.
Because I'm always so positive and have a positive outlook. And this is not, shading mental health.
Yeah.
I'm not.
No, well,
I've dealt with
we
it.
know. Well,
Right.
we know if there's anybody who understands the depth and understands the
Right.
sacrifice, it would absolutely be you.
Right. So, but I didn't experience that. And even while going through my first degree in 2019, I went through it. But because of my resilience, because of how my background, where I grew up, and all the discipline and everything.
And when you say you went through it, is it the personal, professional? Is it the fact that you just were not? You were trying to understand this whole learning thing. When you say you went through it, was
Everything.
it different aspects of your life
Right.
that was
It
kind of
different. So it was
overwhelming?
personal. It was educational. Going to school was stressing. That alone is enough stressing me if I go to school.
Do you think being a man also contributes to that? The fact that, you are now husband, you are now father, you are provider, you are protector. Last year when Lash was on the program, she was very open about her mental health battles, her journey, the thoughts, the suicidal thoughts that
Right.
she's had, the battles that she has, or the demons that she's had to deal with. And she said a huge part of it was you.
Right.
You dealing with her episodes, understanding her episodes, understanding her flaws, filling those gaps, all while still being a father and a professional. Do you think that you even being a man and what is expected of a man also adds pressure?
It's an interesting question. Well, by the way, everybody now knows who that Kevin is.
Yes, no, everyone knows who Kevin is, yes.
Right. But that's an interesting question because, again, I'm not even certain. Again, that just the background on which, the foundation on which I stood.
Yeah.
How I'm always a helper. So just being in distress, I just want to be there.
Yeah.
To help and ensure. At the end of the day, you're my wife, and I don't want to see you drop out.
Yeah.
So I will do whatever I need to do to ensure that you remain here. So it's not. I'm not so sure if the societal
Pressures.
expectation of what a man should do and a man should be, if that added to what I had to go through. For me, it was that balance of dealing with mental health over here, dealing with school over here, trying to get promotion. At the time, I never like we have money. We're broke. So we have to try to figure it out. But out of the brokenness, a lot of things started. We started Inspire 365 out of that.
Yes.
The jewelry light business, we started, buying poker boxes and putting in bars. I'm licensed, right?
Kevin is like, by the way.
And Goshore Couriers, that's me as well. Me and my business partner, Samuel Edwards.
Who I, no matter how much I stress, let me just take a moment because he mentioned Goshore Couriers, who I don't think I stress them out at all. But, I am that person who waits for the very last moment to always order something. And I need this order in like 3-4 days. And no matter how pressing it is, Kevin and the Goshore team are always like, no problem. They're like this with everyone. And I still don't know what manner of sorcery, and I don't know what kind of elves you have working in warehouse and thing.
Right.
But I just want to take the opportunity for always allowing me to show up in those special occasions when I need birthday packages, anniversary packages, and you guys have always
Showers.
Baby showers.
Baby showers.
You guys have always delivered, and even
Thank you.
sharing the Goshore with my community. Everyone has come back and said they are exactly who you say they are.
Thank you, and I'm happy to hear that, because that's why we try to create that sort of environment. We want everybody to feel special. So if anybody sends us a review, we post it.
Yeah.
Like we would post yours when you do it. And we're very, very appreciative of the feedback and letting people know that we actually are who we purport
To
or
be.
put ourselves out there to be.
Yeah.
Right. So, going through those schooling episodes, but out of that also came good.
Yes.
Because I got 3 promotions before I finished that first degree.
What you mean, sir? What you mean?
So because we were going through the transition in the authority, I got the first entry level position because I started school.
Right, and as long as you can show them you're
Right.
still enrolled, you're doing a thing.
Yes. So every semester when I got my grade, and I couldn't get less than B. So I had strict
Criteria,
targets and
yes.
criteria that I had to meet. So every semester when I got my grades, I would have to send it in to HR, because if I was deemed not to be going to school because that stopped so much time, then it would tell them I might have been demoted, or but I was a regular officer. I had a supervisor and a manager that I had to report to at the time.
3
So I guess it was easier for them to do that. But again, because of my superior technical knowledge, and again, the work is kind of technical, when I did an interview for a specialist position, I was also successful. That was
Nice.
before I finished my first degree.
Talk, man.
And then because I was in my unit, the person with the most experience, whole heap of years of experience, and I was honoring my commitment of going to school and providing my grades and all of that. By the time when the manager position opened, when my manager went on retirement, I was like,
See the work that where Margaret did talk to you about.
Yes,
See
man.
the work there.
right, that's so. And so I had like, I was in like the last semester doing my research paper and all of that. And just before getting back that final grade, I was appointed manager for the unit.
Congrats,
Right.
babe.
Thank you.
You never
So-
pop off, you never pop your collar and say, yo, I mean, like it took a while, but finally.
It took a while, yes, it took a while. But as I say, I've always played that supporting role. When my previous manager was there, I would have, really put out a lot of effort, playing my part to ensure that the unit advanced. My director now, Christopher Chambers, great human being.
Yes.
I mean, Chris can call me at 10:30 in the night, and we can have a work meeting at that time. Because, and I must say this, because I remember Christopher, who's my director, and a fellow manager, Sharon, they are always saying to me that, Kevin, you have potential. You need to go back to school.
Yes.
Because no matter what kind of experience and technical acumen you have, people still need to see the academic qualification.
Yep.
And I think a large part of me also being conditioned over time to go back to school was because of them.
The encouragement.
The encouragement, if I wanted time to go to do exams and so forth, I just needed to reach out to them. So that, I have an exam today. And all right, cool. We'll make arrangements. And
let me ask you this, Kevin, because you're in a very unique position. You are a manager. We see intergenerational employees and co-workers. It's something that you said a while ago, that you said sometimes even at 10:30 in the night, you and Mr. Chambers could have a work meeting. And there is discussion, there is debate, because we have the boomers, we have the Gen Xers, we have the millennials, we have the Gen Zers, and we have a whole heap of other generations coming after. But when it comes to work-life balance, we're seeing where, and this is not for all Gen Zers, like that's not it. It's not a broad brush, but we see a lot of persons, even in HR and managerial positions, complaining that after a certain hour, there are certain cutoffs, there are certain employees, especially the younger ones, who you cannot get meetings with. They do not go above and beyond what is in the job description. And you've been that person who's gone above and beyond outside of what you were paid or what was outside of your job description. You also manage young persons, you mentor young persons. What advice, what observations do you have, and what advice do you have for persons listening who are listening to the different conversations in the workplace?
Again, an interesting question, because you said something about work-life balance. That is also something, and Lashwood can tell you, Chris always preaches that. He always preaches work-life balance, because again, he sees my work ethic, he sees my output, and he will always say, Kevin, remember, you have to take time for yourself.
And
remember,
family.
You have a family.
Yes.
Remember that you have to, kind of take it easy sometime. But again, you can do that because of the relationships that you build. And I read a book. I read several books on leadership from John Maxwell, one of the greatest leadership coach ever. And one of the books that I read that stuck with me is 5 Levels of Leadership. Now, if you can understand the different levels of leadership, then you can understand what you can and cannot do, what is acceptable and what is not. So, for example, you and I might have a particular relationship. I can talk to you a particular way as an employee or as a boss.
Yes.
But I dare not try that with somebody else, like Alex, right? Alex will put me in my place, right? We're not that level of friend. Alex
just joking.
Right. But
by the way, Alex, I have some packages coming to your yard soon.
Right. So it is the relationship that you have built up that can allow you to do that. Now, in my unit with my staff, I try to have the same level of camaraderie, and we ensure that is pervasive throughout the unit.
Yes.
And by extension, the authority. The authority is consistently working on culture, having that culture. It's just a great environment to be in. And
so once you create that culture,
and the personal relationships is so important. So you see, one of the things with managing a group is that you have to remember that the group consists of individuals who are always different. So the question is, how can you manage a group together while you build relationship with individual people in that
and
group?
Get the best out of each individual for the shared vision.
Right. So if it comes right back to your question now, what would I say to people? You have to build relationship. Everything rises and falls on relationships. Because relationship will allow you to not demand or request or ask for certain things.
It gives you room.
Yes.
It absolutely gives you room.
In my unit, we have people with all different kind of technical abilities. We have people who have background in computing and programming. We have people with law background. We have people with operations background. And I can call on these people and say, say more on something for doing at Excel. You need you to do this for me. It's not on their job description. But again, because of the relationships that we have
and the
built,
respect. And that respect goes both ways.
Yes. And they know that I have an open door policy. I participate in 360 reviews. So even I'm doing a PER, performance evaluation review, I am also asking, what can I do different? What can I do to be better
as a leader?
What am I doing that is not sitting right with you as an employee?
I guess for me, when I hear you speak, it's really, how do I be the example?
Yes.
A lot of the times as managers, as employers, we demand a certain kind of excellence from our employees. But when they look at us, or our coworkers look at us, the question is, do we embody that which we want them
To
to
display.
be or to display. And I think what you're basically saying is that you kind of have to practice before you even start preaching.
Right.
You have to be the point of reference for others. But I think with you do 13 years to get your degree, and then you decide, say, you know what? Why
Straight into
stop here?
masters.
Straight into the masters.
Right.
And you and your wife did your masters
Together.
together and
Right.
graduated together.
Together.
Walk me through maybe the new approach, the new mindset, maybe having completed your degrees and now walking into your masters. Did you do anything differently?
Yes. In doing my master, so COVID again, when you're throwing lemons, you make lemonade, right? So COVID was a thing. COVID
Yes.
came. Nobody knew how long COVID would last. Nobody understood what COVID-19 was. The world was still learning. The world was reacting, was mostly reacting. And I was at home, was working from home because I still had work. You know, plane fly every day. Whether
Yes.
COVID is or no, plane was flying. And I just decided that I think this is a good time to do my master's. And
But this was different,
That
right? Your degree
mindset.
was business administration.
Administration.
This is now logistics and supply chain.
management, right? So that's a funny story. I actually wanted to do financial accounting. And I was talking to one of my real Jenna from from undergrad, Stefan Clark,
Yes.
and I was having a discussion with him and tell him that, you know, I think to do a master's. He was a big encourager of me doing a master's because he said one thing. He said, Kevin, if I could have rewound time and I would have done my master's earlier. I mean, I said, but this is somebody who I kind of have a little level of respect
Yeah.
for. And if him said that, that means that master's is
Get
critical.
on it, get on it.
So we're talking and him say, yo, masters can open up so much door. You know, everybody have a degree. What separates you from the rest of people? What separates you from the competition? Because at the end of the day, it's a competition. And then he said one thing that resonated with me mostly. He said, having a master means you're now a specialist in a particular area, and that means you can earn so much more.
Ching ching.
Ding, 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 money.
Light bulb.
My light bulb. So I say, yo, all right, so the master's thing. So I started looking at it. So because I don't like school, I have to find something when really too long. So I found that the master's was like 2 years.
Yes.
And I applied for financial accounting at MSBM, Mona School of Business and Management. But then he said that, Kevin, financial accounting not really have the level of money per se, because enough people do that. What you need to do is logistics or project management. And I'm like, huh? So I started reading about the logistics.
It's so important to have people who know more than you.
Yes.
And the reason why I say that is because it's one thing to have a group of friends who you all think alike. And even that has its dangers because you need people who are bringing different perspectives. But there's some of us who are intimidated by people who are brighter than us, smarter than us, more exposed than us because we think it shows up our lack.
Right.
And yet still, in my perspective, it is when you are around people who know more than you, they're better able to advise you, like how
Of
he's
course.
saying, maybe you should have tried do something else because now you have an opportunity to redirect in a way that you probably would not have considered.
And it's again, there's this quote that says if you're the smartest person in the room,
You're in the wrong
you are
room.
in the wrong room. You need to find somewhere else to go.
Absolutely.
So, and you know, I remember because even when I got through with the masters, I was talking to Stefan one day and I wanted to back out. We're on the phone for like an hour and a half and I say, yo, go through.
Why did you want to back out?
Again, when I like school. Assignments, I have to deal with group work, I have to deal with lazy people.
Nobody likes group work.
Right? So and I just started getting cold feet and the whole aspect of going back to school. And so soon as well after, because I finished my business administration in 2020, and this was now 2021. And I was
You're wondering
saying
if it's
that,
worth
I said,
it.
you know, is it worth it? You know, and I decided that, you know what, I'm going to do it. COVID is here, online classes, all that stuff makes it a little bit easier. So I said, you know, I can get up out of my bed, go in front of my computer. I can even log in the computer and go back to my bed.
Although that's definitely what you did not do, right? Right,
Once
Kev?
or twice, but not something to do, guys. But yeah, I may have done it once or twice. But So through COVID, I decided that, okay, this is an opportune time to go and do the master's.
How did you guys support each other, encourage each other, you and Lash? Because it's both of you doing masters, both of you are professionals. She has her entrepreneurship, she's doing her business over that
Right.
side. COVID or not, both of you still have to pull together for the family. Both of you are students, both of you in the same struggle, maybe different fields, but
Different
you
fields it
also have
was.
to motivate each other.
Right.
What was that like?
Right, different fields it was.
And
So
I know I have like 2 more questions to squeeze in the time that I am afforded.
So Lash can't handle pressure. Lash is easily stressed, and her degree that she did was a history degree. So it's a lot of writing, it's a lot of reading, it's a lot of researching, all of that. You see, I was a little bit smart. I chose numbers. 1 + 1 always equal 2. But so I had to be a great sense of support for her, while she could not necessarily reciprocate for me, because in my field she doesn't like numbers.
And it's technical. I mean,
It's technical. It's a lot of calculations, highfalutin calculations. I mean, when I was doing like statistics, just trying to explain statistical models and calculations that you're going through was a task. So I'm not about to try. But for her, when she was doing her degree and going to St. Thomas and going to her final project and being at school, I remember she had a geographical course doing,
Yes.
and that was difficult for her. It was stressing her out, and I had to be there. I said, "No, man, do it this way, do it that way," and just really
imagine Lash with him tree. It did the tree where him did cry over in a CXC. Him come back and I try to tell you about geography. Imagine.
Yeah, and some of the technical work I would have assisted, like creating models on computer and so forth. I would have to sit there explaining it to her, all of that.
I think what is beautiful about the two of you is that you understand each other very well. You understand each other's strengths, weaknesses, and areas of opportunity to support where you can. And I've always said, whenever I see you and Lash together, I'm always like, I think you guys are one of the couples that I look forward to seeing, because you don't try to be perfect. You don't pretend to be perfect. But there is something beautiful about the synergy that you guys have as a couple. What is your most priceless moment in your life, in your ups, your downs, you go round the corner, your accomplishments, the failures? What's the one moment that you said, boy, said this, Terry, I'm a priceless moment?
When I had to pivot, I have had so many priceless moments. I mean, if I get to open doors for people, that is always a moment that I cherish. But I'm going to say that getting married was a priceless moment. I got an ultimatum in a Terry.
You got an ultimatum?
So we'd have to figure it out, Do you want this or not?
Yes.
So we'd have to figure it out. So that was a priceless moment for me. And graduating from school was a priceless moment.
Especially considering what you had been through.
Yes.
Leave it to Kevin, who know mathematical equation. I ask him for one priceless moment, and Kevin come give me 1 + 1 equal
1.
2.
Right. But yeah, so I would say those 2 moments, if I was supposed to tip one really,
Yes.
it's really the graduation.
Yeah.
Because I never saw myself graduating with a master's degree.
Look at that.
I want to tell you something funny. You know what time I think about doing a doctorate? Since?
Well, maybe we'll come back for like a part 2, because I think you are more than capable. I think every time I speak to you, we're always sharing things that we've read or we heard about, and we're always discussing conversation. I mean, this is only when like the packages come to drop off, and it should only take 2 minutes, and then it takes like 2 hours because we're diving into conversations. And Kev, you look back on your life and you realize that you wanted to be a pilot, and then you came close to air traffic control, and you found out that you're colorblind, and you realize that this is the one thing that would stop you dead in your tracks, but then it would root you to this place that you have not only owned it, but you've now opened doors and you've trained others. What is your definition of redirection?
Purpose.
Expound.
You think you know what your purpose is? You have defined your purpose. You have calculated. You have worked towards what you want to work towards. You know this very well. But you get so much satisfaction out of doing something that you were initially forced to do that you start saying, hold on, this was my purpose. Doing a logistics degree propelled me into Goshore. Goshore Couriers. This was my purpose. I needed to be here. I needed to be at the Aeronautical Information Management Department. That's where I needed to be. There are so many younger lives. I'm saying younger because I'm not that old either. But there are so many younger lives there that I look forward to seeing them in the mornings. I look forward to interacting with them. I look forward to learning from them. Many a times we think we understand what our purpose is.
And it is in the redirection that we actually
And it is
find
in the redirection most times you find it. Because many people out there are people who have been redirected.
Kevin Miller, big up yourself.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you, Sotil. And I know that you're just scratching the surface.
Yes.
To be very honest with you. And I know that you will continue to ideate, you will continue to create, but more importantly, you will continue to execute, which I think is what you do very well. I don't know. I enjoyed this conversation, and Kevin is one of those persons who I'm sure after this interview, he's going to be like, Terry, you know, I forget to tell you about this, I forget to tell you about that. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. And if you did, please do not be stingy. Don't be stingy with your likes and your comments. Go ahead and subscribe, and also share this episode with someone who you think might need a little bit of oomph, a little bit of motivation, somebody who you know who might be struggling right now in school saying, boy, I care about her. Maybe this would be the episode that that encourages him or her to push through and to get it done. So until I see you next week, it has been a pleasure, and I certainly hope that you enjoyed this episode of Redirection with Terri-Karelle. Thank you to our partners MasterCard, Heineken 00, Toyota Jamaica, Commercial Concepts, Spaces Jamaica, FHC Credit Union, Beauty Brands by MDS, Goshore Couriers, and Brescia.